I would be way more eloquent in writing, and I'm going to be way more nutty when I try to do it off the cuff like this. I'm going to sneeze. Bless me. So here we go. The first question you asked me was, why did you choose to become a therapist, and why psychoanalysis? So one answer is, I don't know if anyone can actually say why we choose to go into this work. My fantasy is that it's some attempt to heal the wounded parts of ourselves, and even more than that, the wounded parts of those we love for generations back. Particularly psychoanalysis, I think that's, we're talking about the unconscious here. So that's my deeper answer. Now, my more conscious answer is because I had this idea that therapy is a way where I could be my own business owner, own my own business, doing the things I love, which is engaging with people. I'm so curious about people, the complexities, the richness, the people are endlessly fascinating. It's like space. It's like the cosmos. People's minds, people's psyches are as vast as space, as vast as the universe. I was not going to become an astronomer, but I could become a therapist. So I had this fantasy of working with people, which I really enjoy, and being my own boss, making my own money. And I have this idea that once you can have a private practice, you can actually expand that. Your growth is limitless. So you can actually end up doing anything you want in life forever. So that's, and psychoanalysis, I think, handles the mind in a more complex, nuanced way than any other orientation I've ever discovered. A lot of orientations kind of deal with the symptoms, or offer tools, and I feel like psychoanalysis makes you the carpenter, and then you can use any of these other orientations as a tool, but you yourself, psychoanalysis actually trains you to use your mind in a way that any other kind of therapy or tool or intervention is wielded with way more grace and expertise. That's why I love psychoanalysis, and I think that's why I went that route consciously. Okay, number 2, what's the most important thing for a therapist to learn? Wow. So the only way you can actually be helpful to your client is to grow yourself. Every single client I take on, I am very aware that I will have to fundamentally change. I will literally have to fundamentally change, and I don't know what that change is going to be if I agree to work with them. In order for them to change, I have to change. That means I have to constantly be learning, challenging myself, pushing myself beyond any limitations that I think I have, and continuing to excel. If I'm not doing that, then I'm actually doing a disservice to my clients, and I might as well just not work with them at all if I'm not willing to do that deep psychic work all the time, every single day, non-stop growth. So the most important thing I guess I would say to learn as a therapist is you have to constantly be growing and challenging yourself if you want to really do this work, if you really want to be an expert. I'm going to sneeze. What is that? Okay. Number 3, what's the most challenging thing to being a therapist? I think it actually goes back to the last question. 2 things. 1, and actually they're related. Like I said, every time I take a new client on, if I agree to work with that person, I know that I have to change and I have to confront things in myself that are difficult and move through them in order to be of service to that person. So that's difficult. It's never just a walk in the park. It's never going to just be like chilling. It's always going to be rigorous self-examination and growth. The second part of that is actually to have a successful business. So you're talking about therapists, so this could be working in an agency, all kinds of different ways of doing therapy. I'm going to address specifically being in private practice. Along with number 1, you have to grow and continually confront your limitations and address your obstacles and move forward to have a successful business. The success of your business, how about I'll say it this way, your business is limited by your own limitations. So if you start coming up against, I'm not getting the clients I need, or I can't raise my fees, or I can't even find space to see clients, these are all psychic limitations, and that's really hard to actually own. Okay, if I'm not moving forward, that's my shit. There's nobody else in the world. That's mine. To own your own business, you really have to be challenging yourself all the time. That's that. Number 4, how, in my opinion, has the internet and all this social networks frenzy affected our work as therapists? That could be seen as 2 ways. It could be seen as social media frenzy, chaotic, unruly, out of control, overwhelming. And I think there is a lot of using of the internet to distract from ourselves and our internal world, both in therapists and in our clients. We can also see social media as a way to actually spread the word and provide service to people who maybe have never had access to mental health service before. We can give the opportunity for people to level up, create lives that they didn't even think were possible via social media. So I think it's actually a fantastic tool to use to actually spread the word and provide more help to more people. Number 5, what's the most important piece of advice you'd like to give new therapists out there? You have to know your why. You have to know what's, again, there are conscious reasons and unconscious reasons. But if you don't know what's driving you, if you don't know what you want at the end of the day, I mean concretely, the hours you want to spend with your family, the amount of money you want to make so that you can do things like go on vacation, feel safe, social, like a sense of economic security. Those are the things that drive me to move forward. I want to feel safe and I want to have time to spend with and money to spend on the people I love. And I think this is one avenue of getting there. So you got to know why. You got to know at the end of the day what it is that keeps you going. Otherwise, it's easy to give up. It's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to just stop. Also, along with that, you got to find, this might even be more important, you got to find like-minded colleagues, encouraging, supportive, aware of their emotional lives, and still moving forward concretely, action-wise, every day to learn and grow. You got to surround yourself with those people if you're going to be successful. And if you're going to survive psychically and emotionally. Number 6, how do I spend my free time? That's funny. Okay. I enjoy spending time with friends. I really like to read. I don't read as much these days, but I really enjoy reading certain types of fiction, usually riddled with trauma and emotional complexity, and memoirs. I really love memoirs. I read a lot of those when I do read. I really just do things like I enjoy being outside. I these days I don't actually have a lot of free time because I'm really focusing on growing my business. If I do, I spend it with friends and family, and I really just enjoy talking, hanging out, getting to know them better, and also having a space where I can be open and comfortable myself. So that is the answer to how I spend my free time, I guess. I like to take walks. Go to the gym, is that free time? Feels like an obligation. Yeah. What's my favorite book? Oh, I'm going to get through all these questions this way, maybe. I enjoy a lot of books. I'd have to think more about this one. The Structure of Scientific Revolutions is life-changing. I read it in college, undergrad, and I only kind of understood it at the time, but it's one that has stood out to me as just I constantly come back to that in my work as a therapist and in terms of the universe, I guess I'll say. Not in a woo-woo way, but just in a mind-blowing way. Fiction, I really like Geek Love. Super disturbing. I like disturbing things. My favorite, I have so much, I don't know if you can see here, even these are just even a few books. So many books that are mind-blowing. I'd have to have categories to be able to answer that one. With whom, who is a great person alive or dead, would you want to dine with? What would I ask? I actually have a hard time answering this one. I don't think about too much about what great person I would like to spend time with. I think it's in a little way a setup. I think everybody's great. The people who are, again, able to continue to advance, push themselves, stay in touch with their emotional lives, and also able to move forward, those are the people I want to emulate, and they're in abundance. Those people are in abundance. I could give you like a rote answer. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Prince, David Bowie most recently, because I know they're going to die, and once people die, the wealth of knowledge goes away, and that's very sad. And then there's also things like Oprah right now, today, because she could actually talk with me, and if I could offer her value, she might be more inclined to just introduce me and connect me up with her current connections, or at least one current connection. And really, if you can endear yourself, not in a smarmy way, but actually make a real connection with someone who is connected, then you are on your way, both in terms of actual connections which help you grow, but also in terms of having access to a kind of mind that is a creative mind. That kind of access is more valuable than anything, having access to a person with who is aware. I'll say that. Where do I get my inspiration from? I have heytiffany.com, and truly the emails I get from my readers who are actually able to read or read things I write, the articles I write, or watch the videos I create, and then actually take action and then change their behavior and then come back and tell me about it. That truly inspires me. That keeps me going in terms of my Hey Tiffany business. Totally keeps me going. The dream of being able to send my nieces and nephews or the people I love to college and pay for it all. The fantasy of being able to take people to other countries, like foster kids who have never had access to anything like that, just take them to another country. The ability to see people, just a few people in my private practice at a really low fee, people who could never have access to a generative mind, and to be able to see them without sacrificing myself or my family financially. These are the things that truly inspire me. And every day I have a really rigorous schedule, and I'm able to do it because I hold truly my why I'm doing it all is right inside. And I'm reminded because of people like you who watch these things. It helps keep me going. What do you consider the most overrated virtue? When I first read this, I was in the car with my boyfriend, and the first thing that came to my mind was being humble. And I thought, I can't say that. And then I asked him, hey, what would you answer this? And he said humility. And the reason I say that is because this fucking being humble gets in the way of so many great minds, great possibilities. I actually think it's an excuse to hold oneself back and to keep your gifts from other people. Let me tell you the truth. I'm pretty comfortable like doing this kind of thing in front of the camera, but in truth, I have a lot of self-doubt, of course, and I'm very self-critical and anxious about what are people going to think of me, or how, will I be able to really make it? The fact is, if I let those things hold me back, then I am fucking doing a disservice to you. I'll have a therapist write in and say to me, hey, Tiffany, I read your article about fees. I went home that day, I figured out what my fee needed to be, and then I went back to my practice and I charged that fee. If I can help even one person make a difference, make a change in their life, then who am I to let my anxiety or my being humble or my fantasies of being humble, who am I to let that get in the way of being able to offer something to somebody else? So this fantasy of like being humble, in truth, I'm humble. If you talk to me, I feel so grateful to be able to be in any kind of position of goodness. It's a surprise to me all the time. I'm humbled constantly, but being humble as a virtue, I think, is too often used as an excuse not to take action and not to move forward and not to exclaim, put yourself out there to help make a difference in the lives of others. Get rid of that humility shit. And what is my greatest fear? That's a good question. I almost said I have a lot of fears. I don't know if I have a lot of fears. I was told just last night, I was out with some colleagues for a dinner, and I was telling this colleague about a time I went kayaking in this place called Tamales Bay, north of where I live. And my boyfriend and I were kayaking, and the kayak got a leak. He can't swim very well. So we're out in the middle of this bay, and the kayak got a leak. We had life vests on, so we were able to swim back. I really like to swim. I've swam my whole life, so that part wasn't tough for me. But you know, we were in a kind of a dangerous bay, which I did not realize at the time, that could suck you out to sea. And we had to swim back to shore and pull the boat with us back to shore. We made it. Everything was fine. This was a couple years ago. I was telling this colleague about this experience, and she said, there are great white sharks in that bay. That's a reason that a lot of experienced kayakers don't go there. I've never kayaked before, so I'm certainly not experienced. And she said, there are sharks, great white sharks, in that bay all the time. And that terrified the shit out of me. I'm still scared to imagine, like, that time when I was in that water, there was possibly great white sharks swimming around underneath me, my fatty little edible legs. That scared me. So I can say, thinking about this question, that the unknown dangers, the things we can't even know, we don't know, might be terrifying to me. I can move forward every day and do the things I want to do, but the idea that in truth I myself and the people I love are always kind of just missing out on death in some way or another, one, can scare me if I think about it, and two, that shit makes me feel humble. Like, I'm humbled and grateful that I'm alive every single day. I think it's a gift, and I think I'm lucky, and I never take that shit for granted. So I ended up answering all your questions, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to answer them. I really appreciate it, and I wish you a whole lot of success, and I most certainly hope that we keep in touch. All right.